Okay, you should be good.
Hey, I would like to call the Policy Committee of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Monday, October 27th, and we are meeting in an online format. My name is Maya Lena, and I'm the chair of the Policy Committee. Today we have with us Policy Committee member Yusra Ali and Committee member Vice Chair of the Board Mickey Bondo, and we have Board Chair Sarah Lentz. We also have Chief of Strategy and Operations, Dr. Sarah Warren, and Executive Director of Human Resources, Jennifer Slabing, joining us tonight as well. The agenda tonight is we have a few policies that we are reviewing once more and then voting on. Those are ACAA, harassment and sexual harassment of students, ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees, AC, non-discrimination / equal opportunity and affirmative action. And then after we vote on all of those, we will have our second look at GBEB, staff conduct with students. So I will turn it over to Dr. Warren to get us started.
Great.
Oh, wait a second, sorry. I'm going to see if there's any public comment. I apologize. Okay, I do not see anyone with public comment, so Dr. Warren, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Let me do my best to share here. Oops. Oh, it signed me out. Okay. Can you see that, Chair? Okay. So again, just a quick overview. Policies ACAA, ACAB, and AC are ones that we're hoping to finalize discussion on and vote tonight. AC has actually not been reviewed by the committee yet. It's just been brought forward by our lawyers as something that they realized we needed to make a minor adjustment to in order to stay current with the law. And so that's policy related to sexual harassment and discrimination and harassment. Policy GBEB is the student conduct policy, and we'll get to that at the end. Oops, you know what? This is not projecting the right thing. Let me try this again. There we go. Okay. So if we can just focus a little bit on ACAA and ACAB again, these are ACAA related to students, ACAA and ACAB, effectively the same policy, but related to staff and students. So we need to have policy related to both. And in both versions of the policy, there's a paragraph that's been in there now for, I think, since the policy was redone in 2021, that calls for an informal complaint system that includes an anonymous reporting system. And in the previous discussion, the committee was wrestling with that concept and trying to figure out what some of the pros and cons might be around removing that paragraph. It was recommended by our lawyers that the board consider removing that paragraph because of concerns about how difficult it can be to investigate an anonymous complaint. They also had pointed out that even if the board takes out that paragraph, it doesn't mean people will stop filing anonymous complaints altogether. It just means that from their point of view, it would be sort of encouraging it less. But that is just something that the committee and the board need to wrestle with. And I asked Jennifer Slabing to join us because she leads the HR team and they're the ones who have to deal with the investigation process, and wanted to give her a chance to share with the committee because the committee had requested at the last meeting a little bit more information about how the process is working and what the data looks like, since part of why the board had put this into effect was concerns around not enough reporting happening, that people were maybe holding back on reports. And I wasn't here at the time, so members of the board that were here might want to speak to that more, but that's essentially where we landed last time. And so we need to hopefully work our way through that conversation, get to a decision and then ultimately a vote on the red lines. But let me just hand over to Jennifer and see if you want to share a little bit more.
Sure. So wanted to put a little bit of information together for you to have an idea of what we're looking at in terms of reporting through this informal document. It's a Google form essentially, and I'm happy to share that if we'd like as well, or at the end or whenever. But wanted to just give you some numbers from the time that the data goes back to in the form that I have. And so in looking at it, if you look at the 21-22 school year, total complaints of 33 and pretty evenly split in that year between the anonymous and not anonymous complaints. Significant increases, as you can see, in 22 and 23 in those years, with 64 and 63 total for those 2 years. And in that 22-23 school year, really leaning a lot more toward the anonymous reports. Pretty evenly balanced in 23-24, and then a lot fewer reports last year, with only 29 coming in and 8 of those only being anonymous. So a shift in the other direction. So no real pattern. I wish there was like a more consistent pattern that we could look to or talk about, but no real pattern to that. Something that you can't see reflected in this chart that I would just sort of mention is, and I'm sorry, I don't have this data disaggregated for 24-25, but for 23-24, there, a number of reports, 63, obviously a number of reports using the informal reporting tool, that Google form. That doesn't include any reports that may have come in, through schools with direct reporting. But only 11 total complaints went to a formal complaint in the 23-24 school year. So again, that's combining the 63 that came in through the form, as well as any that were reported directly through school sites or departments. 11 formal complaints. The majority of complaints are resolved at the school level, at the site level, in other ways other than going to a formal complaint. So again, I know we have this conversation to have around the anonymity piece. And I wish that I could very clearly give you data that points to one direction or the other on this. I'm not sure I'm providing you as much clarity as you might have liked, but in terms of the numbers, this is what we have. Happy to speak to what that looks like from an investigation end, if there are questions specific to that. I'm also happy if we want to pause on the slide presentation, I can pull up the reporting form for you to look at what that is as well.
Director Slaving, I have a question about that last slide that you were showing. Sorry, it's
Oh,
just
sorry.
it's okay.
You want me to put it back up?
Sure.
Hang on one
I
second.
just was wondering if you can clarify exactly what those reports are about. Are those all harassment and sexual harassment reports? Are they any complaints about anything HR related?
Yeah, so why don't I share the form so that you can see what the form outlines, because
Okay.
it does, and it's probably a little more than just what the form shows as well, but I'll sort of talk to that a little bit. So let me share that.
Thanks.
Oh, Sarah, I'm not able to share. Are you able to give me permission?
Yep. Let me make you oh, that's weird. You are a panelist. Hang on. I'll make you a co-host. That should make you.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Is that working? Okay.
Yes. And I just want to make sure I go to the right window. I hope this is the right thing. Yeah. Okay. So am I in it? There we go. So this is the form if people were to, to go on to the link, this is what they would see. So talks about the anonymity piece, talks about all forms of discrimination. So I think this answers the question around what potentially could be reported, all forms of discrimination and harassment. In my case, it has this, but you don't have to be logged into any sort of email. There is this notice right at the top that does indicate that we may not be able to investigate or respond to anonymous reports. So that caveat is there right at the front of this form, letting people know that if they choose to do an anonymous complaint, we may not be able to do too much, but certainly that they are welcome to provide it anyway. It really depends in large part how much they share and what is in that document. So as an example, I have had one this year where it just had a name. That's all it had. The report was basically like a name and no information. It was anonymous. There's not a lot I can do with that. I'm not really sure what the concern is. There's no starting point. So it does explain that anonymity piece and some other information, who to contact at the schools or outside of the schools. If there's something really critical, it says right at the top, of course, 911. And then this is where the choices are for the type of incident. So is it discriminatory? Is it harassment? Is it specifically sexual harassment, including assault and misconduct? They can not identify, or they can fill in as well if there's something that they want to report. They can outline in this section, sort of in more details, what it is that they're reporting, whether it was on campus or off campus, where they go to school, what grade they are in. And of course, they can always indicate if they're other. Sometimes people might say they're a parent or they're a friend of someone who goes to our schools. They do not have to answer, but there is demographic information around race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation. This is a required field. They do have to at least acknowledge that they've read the confidentiality notice. And then here at the end, they can put their contact information in, but they're not required to. And so again, if they don't put anything there, then we have to kind of take some time to evaluate the information that they've submitted to determine if it feels like it's necessary to investigate and determine what a starting point might be. So that's the gist of that form. And then that's all collected in a handy spreadsheet.
And Director Sleeping, one more question about that that chart that you showed. Was that just student reporting, or was that staff and students reporting?
That's all informal reporting that came in through that form, specifically through the form I just shared. So as I said, there may also be, like in our overall data, when we talk about total reports, where there were, when I was sharing that there were 11 formal complaints in the 23-24 school year, but that comes out of all of them. So not only the 63 or 64 that we had through that form, but also our some of our secondary campuses in particular have their liaisons that might get reports brought to them from students or from staff. People can directly report to their administration. They can directly report to HR. So there are a lot of other avenues for in-person reporting. Obviously, an in-person report is not going to have the element of anonymity. And sometimes people do. I mean, I have definitely had people meet with me and then decide they don't want to go forward because of the the anonymity piece. They maybe feel that they don't want to attach their name to a complaint at a certain time, and they may change their mind later. But if they initially don't want to file a formal complaint and remain anonymous, then, we have to respect that and still investigate if it's something that rises to a level of, being serious enough, significant enough.
Vice Chair Bondo?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Maya. Yes, when I look at it, I feel a little disappointed to don't have a breakdown like Chair just asking about students or staff, because when I remember when we voted that resolution a couple of years ago, it was mostly about students, where we value student reporting, because we really want them to be safe when they're reporting any harassment, everything. So, but the way we present is it's just like overall, we don't have any depth on how many students have reported versus to the staff. So everything is in general, right? Jennifer?
I can look at the data. I know there's some disaggregation in that, especially in that 23-24 data that I was able to give you that total complaints. I can take a quick look, maybe after I answer any other questions, and while
Okay.
Sarah's finishing up, I'm happy to take a quick look to see if I can pull how many reports were student specific.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Board member Ali.
Hey, so y'all can hear me, right? Just using these headphones because, yeah, this is interesting. How does everyone feel about the anonymous, anonymous like reporting?
I guess my first reaction is that, I wonder if removing it from the policy will have any effect on the form. I mean, it's very well detailed in the form. If it's required, and by policy, it's required to be on the form. If it's not required by policy, that language is not necessarily required to be on the form. I don't know. So I don't know the answer. Vice Chair Bondo, do you want to share something?
Yes, definitely. For me, I'm comfortable to be moving, just remove the anonymously, because I really want people, because I want the investigation to go the way it's supposed to be going. So we know exactly who's reporting, and then people can face those consequences, because and I think people really and I think we can hold those people accountable, because when we just keeping anonymously, is like, we try to protect also from the beginning. But when I see too many things happening, I feel like, people try to save their record, but not be exposed for those reporting. So I'm kind of leaning to remove those